What's up guys, Johnny B here with Ready or Not Gaming. Today I wanted to do an early review of the Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales. I haven't gotten too deep into this game, but I think I have a good enough understanding of the core mechanics, progression, stuff like that in order to do like an early review. So I'll most likely do a full review down the line. So with that out of the way, let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to touch on is the overall aesthetics of this game. It includes characters, graphics, and audio design. So overall, I thought the game had really strong aesthetic cohesion. Character portraits were detailed. The HD 2D style looks as vibrant as ever. Voice acting was also really well done, with I think almost every single line of text being voiced. I thought the music of the game was pretty good as well, with the tracks matching what you were doing in the game pretty well, and a lot of good instruments, cool tunes overall. With overall aesthetics out of the way, let's talk about the story, at least the early game story. The game opens up with a pretty generic story, if I'm being honest. Elliot is an adventurer, and he finds his way to the castle of the Kingdom of Huther. One of the king's retinue decides the king is too afraid to acquire new power, and ends up sneaking into a portal into a different time in search of said power. There's also a princess that's using her magic to protect the kingdom from outside threats. I'll hold my judgments for now, since I don't know how everything ends, and also because the trite story never seems to drag on or annoy me too much. It just kind of provided context for the next activity to do in the game. There's also a good handful of side quests with their own stories, some of which surprised me a little bit, but nothing to write home about so far. An overarching critique I have is that the time travel gimmick in this game feels a little underwhelming. You can freely fast travel between all of the ages, which minimizes their impact. And they really just feel like different coats of paint on the same world. Structures, enemies, and even the types of people you encounter are largely the same. You would think 1,000 years would completely alter the game's geography or culture like it would in real life, but it really doesn't here. Now let's move over to gameplay, where Adventures of Elliot really shines. I think you can divide gameplay into a 3-part loop here. You have explore, fight, and reconvene. So exploring is obviously finding your way to the next objective, or just kind of running around the map looking for new gear or more money. This also includes a variety of dungeons that will have different layouts and accessible paths based on which age you're entering them in. For the game's combat system, you have 6 or so weapon types to mix and match, as well as a perk system using this rock called Magicite, which can be used essentially to gamble for random weapon upgrades. Your choice of weapons are sword, spear, hammer, chain, bow, bomb, and boomerang. They're all pretty fun to use and can be modified with Magicite for even more synergies. For a quick example, there's a Magicite upgrade that can be used to have your bombs freeze anyone that they touch. One of these can be used to freeze and disperse a crowd of enemies, so you can pick them off with your bow. You also have Faye, your fairy companion. She can be used in combat as well as for traversal with warp and dash abilities. And no, she's not as annoying as a lot of people are saying. And then, of course, reconvene is when you return to the town to converse with folks, upgrade/resupply, and pick up main and side quests. In motion, this gameplay loop feels a lot better than it sounds. A big reason for this is that on the very hard difficulty, this game has such a strong demand for your currency tool. As you progress through the game, you can buy empty bottles to be filled with potions that you can buy in the store. Problem is that the large potion costs 70 tool. Arrows and bombs are 2 and 10 respectively, so fully restoring your supply of all that can cost you upwards of 500 tool. Even your trusty fairy companion is out for your pockets. She can revive you for 300 tool once, but the next one is 600. and the one after that is 1,000. I was a huge fan of how this coalesces. It keeps me carefully considering when and where to use any of my resources, and this is compounded by how the game has some really fun and challenging enemy encounters in it. If you're not paying attention, even one room of the dungeon can force you to drain 2 or 3 potions, which may total all of the money you have. Now you have to decide if you want to save up money for more potions or prioritize getting that boomerang upgrade at the shop. What makes this game stand out, even from its obvious sources of inspiration, is where resource management folds into combat design. Even in the early game, there are a ton of really fun boss encounters, some of which feel like they wouldn't be out of place in a Souls-like game. Please don't leave, I'm just saying they hit hard and have fun moves and patterns to learn. Of this list of bosses, we have one that makes you master tight parrying windows, one that forces you to dash around the map avoiding bullet hell attacks, one that gets you to carefully balance ranged and close-up attack options, one that has you exposing weak spots before wailing on them like you're playing Zelda, and I can keep going. I forced myself to put the game down and write this video after finishing the Carfield boss fight, right after you get the mirror shield and unlock the parry ability. I found that this is where all the combat and movement mechanics clicked for this buttery, smooth game feel. And that takes me to the main question: is this game worth the money? I think this game is for a few different types of people. Do you like the top-down Zelda aesthetic and want to play a game like that? Do you enjoy the challenge of battling tough enemies and bosses while managing resources in a tight gameplay loop? If you answered yes to either, I would say go for it, this game is for you. Otherwise, either skip it or maybe wait for a sale. I'm sure the price will drop quite a bit in the next several months. But personally, I'm really enjoying this game, and I think it's worth $60 just off of the core gameplay loop and the boss fights. Anyways, let me know what you think. Do you plan to buy this game now, or wait for a sale, or just skip it altogether? If I changed your mind on anything, drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching.